Reality is perpetually existing being. It is silence. It is as it is, eternally so. It is neither an object nor an individual, but is infinite. It is itself, always. It knows itself. If realizing it is needed, it realizes itself. It alone reveals itself to itself. So it is the essence of the teaching. It is the source of the teaching. It is the one who comprehends the teaching. All of which are one and the same thing. The teaching is that of perpetual truth. For reality does not have an alternative. Any alternative to reality would simply be unreal, which is to say, not at all. The realization or knowledge of the truth regarding this is a state of imperturbable peace, as immutable as existence or real being itself. It is also said in the Vedas to be the highest of joys. Well, really, it's not in comparison to any other kind of joy. So we call it Ananda bliss. It is a happiness which leaves nothing else to be desired, for which nothing is lacking. It is also great freedom, so it is called moksha, or liberation. Liberation from all of the imagined bondage. It is an immense freedom. The freedom in which nothing can afflict. Nothing can cause bondage. A freedom which does not depend on objects, situations, events, conditions of any kind. All this peace and happiness and freedom are inherent in this reality, otherwise called Brahman, or the vast absolute, which is neither an object nor an individual. The only way to realize it is to abide in identity with it. To abide in identity with it, you must know yourself. For what you are is always this absolute reality, or God. Hence the Upanishad says, Tattvamasi, that you are. It is not that you become that, as if you had the power to break off from it and then return to it at some other date. But rather that, the absolute, is the solitary existence always. And that is what you are. To such an extent that you are not a part of it, nor is it a part of you. But rather the self is the absolute is the self. The absolute is not other, and the self is not other. Therefore, know yourself. If you know yourself, you know the absolute, and what you know is what you are. In order to know yourself as you truly are, which is being as you truly are, inquire in such a manner that you cease to misidentify with anything that can give rise to the illusory bondage, that is, with any ignorant conception, whether that conception or definition be of an object or of an individual. If we regard objects as real, we will not know the true existence. When one knows the true existence, there's nothing objective created anywhere. As long as you regard yourself as the assumed individual being or individual entity, your real self will not be known. If you inquire and know yourself as you are, there's not a trace of individuality or ego anywhere. There is just vast being, which is simultaneously consciousness and bliss. It is utterly non-dual in nature, without birth, without death. The individual has not been born. The objects have not actually come to be. One reality actually is. That should be known as yourself. If you abide steadily in such knowledge, all the bliss and peace and liberation alluded to earlier are your own natural state. So inquire and accept that as a definition of who you are, which is as perpetual as existence itself. Do not accept as a definition, in other words, do not misidentify with anything that is not perpetual, anything that comes in and out of existence, anything that has birth and death. As an example, your body. It both is particularized and it's an object, and it has birth and death. You cannot be an object. Who are you? Inquire into yourself. Who am I? Discard what is objective. The body, the thoughts constituting your mind, all of which are things known. Who is the knower? None of those things shine always. Something shines and exists always. It is you. What is that? Know that within yourself. I'm speaking of self-knowledge, not a knowledge of ideas and perceptions through your senses, through your thinking. Something non-objective, more subjective than thoughts, conception, or perception. Something known immediately, just like you know you exist right now without thinking about it or seeing or hearing or touching or anything else in relation to it. That existence should know itself. That existence or being already is itself, so there's no question of attaining something new, or obtaining something new, or producing something new, or transforming yourself into something other. There's no need for God to be transformed into anything else. And that God you already are. Knowledge reveals it. The method of inquiry to reveal that knowledge is primarily one of negation, negating the ignorance. If we remove the illusory superimposition, the substrate will stand out self-revealed. If false definitions about yourself are rejected simply by this wisdom, the knowledge of your own being will shine in its own light. That which is said to be shining then is actually existing now, always, beyond the sense of time, without any particular location. It just is as it is, always. This much has been said to point out the basic truth. If at any point this morning you have a question or you want to relate your own experience, feel free to do so. Gotcha.
I have a question that it's a little difficult to put into appropriate wording. It comes off kind of silly, but I'll try to ask it anyway.
That's okay. We like silly things.
Sometimes it seems that the grace of having the absolute exalted is, at least in part, it serves to dwarf the significance of anything illusory. But at the same time, it almost seems that to apply a word like infinite to the absolute is almost not necessary, because the infinite's a word that's kind of more in the realm of illusion, or what illusion pretends to be. People pretend to think that the universe is infinite or something like that. And almost in the same token, I was thinking that to be in tune with the absolute, humility and being humble is natural, because in a certain sense the absolute would be ultimately humble, because, and this is, I don't know a wiser way to say this, there's nobody else to show off to.
That's why the Maharshi has said that your greatest glory lies where you cease to exist. Where you cease to exist, real existence is self-revealed. We attain to it by means of humility, rather than by proclamation, or let alone pride. not making a big deal of ourselves is a good step. If we take the second step to see that there is no one to make a big deal about, it is complete. Infinite is all right. There's nothing wrong with the infinite. Yes, on the one hand, truth is ineffable. So before it, as the Upanishads say, all words and thought turn back, unable to grasp it. On the other hand, as Adi Shankara, the great sage, has pointed out even centuries ago, if you comprehend the meaning of such instruction regarding the Absolute, the power of that instruction is none other than the power of Brahman, of the Absolute itself. So on the one hand, we should dismiss all words. On the other hand, we should listen very carefully to what they're saying. So if a person knows this word infinite does not grasp it, that's fine. If another person comes along and meditates on what does it really mean when it is said that it's infinite, and thereby their mind is blown away like clouds before the wind, that's all right too. I never saw anyone hurt by infinity. Did you?
No, it was kind of a silly question, but it seemed like the Absolute's even more than infinite.
Okay.
Absolutely breathtaking. You were sharing with us there. Speechless. Basically, there's something inside me, as you said, that absolutely knows that what you said this morning is the absolute truth. And I'm just abiding in the grace and the love of somehow knowing that. And what my question is that somehow, without a doubt, I feel that there's something that basically, that agreeing with you on a mental level is just not enough. And not to put it like I don't agree with it, but there's something inside me that just knows it. And to stand outside this, my question is, and you've shared with me time and time again, is that, I got to stop this mental level that I have to agree with this truth to somehow get it. And I know that this is ludicrous, it's ludicrous. And I just basically want to just share with the fact that there's not a doubt in my being that what you say is so elegantly our greatest gift, and what I guess it's just, why do I have to mentally try to? It doesn't serve any purpose to have something separate that thinks it agrees with it. So it's not that I'm not saying it, I'm just trying to get deeper than that and know that. And what continues that circle to think that I have to agree with this truth and creating an individual and doing so?
All right, just a few points. The first is that truth is utterly impersonal. Reality is not waiting for anyone's opinion. either to agree with it, to express it, or any such thing. What I am saying, though born of direct experience, is merely a reiteration of what countless sages before have said. I have not added anything to it. I just haven't subtracted anything from it. There's nothing personal in it. So there's no need to worry about whether you agree with what's being said or not. What's necessary is for you to dive within and realize the real self, what you truly are. Since it is the mind, as the Maharshi points out, that seems to wander away from the self, well, in absolute truth, the self being infinite, there's no place for it to wander. But speaking in terms of guidance for the spiritual aspirants, the Maharshi says the mind seems to wander away from the self, so practice and instruction consist in restoring it to its proper place. In its proper place, it loses its form as a mind and remains only as pure consciousness, without limitation, without form. If the mind has wandered away, then the mind must seem to come into agreement, as it were, with the absolute, with the self. This may manifest in any number of ways. For example, it may manifest with your powers of reasoning that you yourself employ, coming to terms with the instruction. It's left with a choice, either to retain its previous way of thinking or to relinquish that way of thinking and to get into a state that's in accord with the truth, that is, where the experience related by countless sages and scriptures before you becomes your own experience. In other words, you do not carry your own personal ideas. Rather, you look to see how your mind can become wedded to that truth. It is a good use of the mind. It's a process of introversion or introspection. In the mind, doubts arise. There are no doubts for the real self. So spiritual practice is concerned primarily with the mind. The body itself does not have ignorance, though thinking that you are the body is ignorance. But the body itself has no ignorance. It's an innocent party. So we do not worry about the body. The self has no ignorance, so we do not worry about the self. It is the mind that conjures up the ignorance, and it is the practice that occurs within the mind that destroys the ignorance, right to its root. So the efforts you apply with your mind to listen, to reflect, to deeply meditate, are very worthwhile. You go on listening, reflecting, meditating. Shravana, manana, nididhyasana. Listening, reflection, deep continuous meditation. The result is samadhi, or absorption. When what is experienced in the samadhi is realized to be the reality without alternative, it is self-realization. So go on practicing with your mind, turning it inward. It should question its own ideas. Find out, why do you think the way you think? It is not so random, you know. When you question that way, it'll lead you back to who thinks. You will find that all the thinking, all the delusive ideas, etc., all have their root in a single idea, I, what we call an ego or individual. As the Maharshi points out, it's the first thought to arise, it is the last to subside. It is intricately connected with every other thought. Who is that I? Inquire. Turn your mind inward, trace your own thinking back to the I, inquire as to who am I, and thereby verify truth within yourself. You'll find it shining in yourself. But there's nothing personal about it. And it's not anyone's opinion, for it is not a set of ideas. What you are is not a set of ideas. Go on inquiring.
So when it basically comes down to just, like you said, shared with us, is that what you said and what you said, countless other sages have shared with us through through timeless time, is that there's just nothing more to say. I mean, the Maharshi said it all. You said it all this morning. Shankara. You know, it's just nothing more to say.
The Maharshi made it clear even in his silence.
Yeah.
This might be similar to Steve's question, I don't know, but last week after the retreat, I had a very good experience all day. It's like I was aware, that I was not the body and all that, even though I was working. And my question is that the next day it disappeared. So how will I keep this?
Well, the first thing is to observe, how did it disappear?
I was just not aware.
Okay, you were just not aware. While the previous day, you were aware. And did that awareness feel natural, or did it feel contrived?
It's nature.
It felt natural. Something became contrived later. It may feel more like the return of an old habit. Undoing that habit requires effort. That effort is called spiritual practice. When we have good experience, it's natural to want to remain with it. And if it slips away, to return to it. How did you get into it to begin with? That will give you a key as to how to return to it. How did the experience come about to start?
Probably from the retreat, probably from meditation and listening.
So you were listening, meditating, and intensely so, you were giving your mind to it. And the experience came about quite naturally. If that happened once, it could happen again, couldn't it? If it happened twice, it could happen 3 times. After a while, there would be more of the right experience and less of the delusive or bound experience. At some point, there would be more holes than there would be substance to the delusion. It'd become like Swiss cheese. More holes than substance. So if you were meditating, you were trying to inquire, etc., go on doing so. In the course of practice, you'll find that what now seems as an experience that came and went is actually the abiding reality. Or you were experiencing a facet, we could say, or an aspect of that reality. While the more bound state that seemed to hem it in from both sides, before and after, it is that which is transitory. That comes and goes. You don't come and go. Ignorance comes and goes. Look in this way. Clear for you?
Follow on with that question. When I get into those experiences, sometimes I doubt them because they, I find that I'm trying to get away from something, so I want to get into this experience. And then I'm not sure if I'm really having an experience or whether I'm just making up something just to get away from something. I imagine bliss. I imagine that I'm connected. I imagine, this wholeness. At times, I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm just sort of moving into a place where I'm sort of numbing myself out and creating something. And then what happens is my practice starts going for this thing rather than going for this, the reality of it. I'm actually sort of creating a bliss state that's just made up. Right? And I don't know.
Is the suffering state and divided state also made up and just imagined?
It's true.
Okay, so you have two states, both of which you feel are just made up and imagined. What is not made up and not imagined? Obviously, if you imagine pain and suffering, you will naturally go away from it or try to remove yourself from it. And while a derogatory term such as escaping from it can be used, no, it's just your nature not to be unhappy. And when there is unhappiness, you will naturally move toward happiness, like any sentient being. Where there's bondage, you'll move towards freedom. What is it that's not imagined? What is it that you do not produce just by thinking it up? Is there something?
It's true.
Now, when you reflect on it, even as I'm asking you this, there's a certain element of happiness. Did you imagine that? Did you think to yourself, I'm now going to imagine happiness? Or was it there just naturally? Not so complex.
It's interesting when I'm not thinking about it, I can actually, it always surprises me.
All right. It is not that some great obstacles confront you, nor are you going to trick yourself into bliss. All right? It is sufficient that if you have a keen interest, an ardent desire to know yourself, that to the best of your ability, you consistently try to know yourself, to inquire deeply within yourself, to get to the very root or center of your mind. And if you do that, you're tracing out what is existing, since you know that you are. You know that you are. It's a fact, you cannot imagine it, and if you try to imagine that you're not, you still are. And if you try to imagine a non-knowing state, you know that state as well. The knowledge essence, therefore, and the existence are not imagined. It is better to say the entire world is imagined than to say it is imagined. If you're in bondage, escape and go to liberation. But you go to liberation by knowing yourself. When you know yourself, you see there has not been any coming or going. Just that which was imagined, from the I down to the formed world, are no more. One existence remains. And it is Purnam, perfectly full. And there is no rule anywhere that I know of that says that you can't be happy with that.
You know, sometimes you mentioned in your talk that about the meditation, how it's negating what's subjective. And sometimes I try to meditate. I kind of think about that and I try to meditate like that. And sometimes actually in a deeper meditation I have more success. Where I kind of feel like, oh, how can it be something objective? And then a meditation seems to be like, okay, then anything that's objective has to be eliminated. So from what, I guess my question is how do you proceed with a meditation like that? Is it something from that you know that's, you kind of have an inkling for what the self is, and you meditate from there?
You know that you exist. Existence and consciousness are self-evident. The instruction was to negate all that's objective. All that has name, all that has form, all that you perceive, all that you conceive. Including the instruments of those perceptions. So, not just the objects, but the body, which is another object. Not just the body and the objects, but also the senses, which are also objective to you. Not just the senses, but the prana, or being alive or being animated, because you know about that as well. Not just all that, but every idea, any aspect of the mind. Even those modes of mind in which there are no thought, they're still known by you. So everything objective, set aside as not being yourself. The sense of identity should return to just pure being. In your identity lies reality. The sense of reality returns to your being. Happiness is likewise, as we've talked about previously. So when it is said, neti, neti, not this, it means the sense of identity and reality return to the rightful place. That is your real being. You say that in deep meditation, you can see that the non-objective is not what you are, you negate it. It's probably the other way around. When you negate what is objective, your meditation is deep. In other words, we don't get into a deep state and then we have good meditation. Rather, we meditate in a profound way, and the result is a deep state. Clear? Otherwise, you'll have to wait for some state to come over you. It's far better to inquire and not bother about waiting.
Oh, I don't usually just wait. I try to. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'll try a certain type of meditation, something that struck me.
Okay.
So sometimes I think of how it's a negation. I don't think it's objective. Now, is that similar to self-inquiry, though? Because I guess it sort of is.
Yes. They're just different ways of describing the same inward turning of the mind, the same coming to know yourself. The essence of the meditation is one of knowledge. We speak of it in various ways, expediently in order to overcome various forms of delusive bondage. But it's really one inquiry, whether we say we're negating what's objective, or inquiring, who am I? Or some other similar thing. There really isn't, in a path of non-dual self-knowledge, a great variety of meditations, though there is a seemingly limitless application of the one essential meditation. So the same principle by which you transcend the body is the same principle by which you transcend the mind. The same principle by which you know yourself, you come to know ultimate reality. It's by the same principle. It's one very simple, formless essence that you find to be universally applicable.
So, but the applications may vary? Or?
Certainly. If you're addressing different experiences, it seems the application is different. But all the experiences depend on you. You must be there for any experience to occur. That you is of the essence. So we start with that. We also end with that.
Because you start with it because you notice that there's So supposed existence, and then you check it out and find out what it is.
Yes, you start with it because your own existence is self-evident, even if it appears at first to be individualized or limited. But the existence cannot be denied. It seems to be an inquiry into the bound one, but when you inquire into the bound one, you find the one who's liberated. It seems to be an inquiry into the individual existence. Again, the self has no inquiry. It seems to be an inquiry into the ego I. When you inquire into the ego I, no ego is found, only pure existence or the real self. And the one who so inquired, he has been swallowed up in the process. The applications are numerous. You might be meditating in such a way as to transcend the body, or to transcend the mind, or to see the non-existence of the ego, or to comprehend what is meant by there has been no creation, there's no objective thing. You might be addressing some particular form of bondage in order to free yourself from it. You might be addressing some particular attachment in order to liberate your bliss from it. But the essence is always the same. All your experience, apparently inner and outer, in whatever state, waking, dreaming, deep sleep, whatever, all depends on you. To change your experience requires simply a change in the knowledge of yourself. However, if you come to know yourself entirely, there'll be no such thing as an experience. Just oneself everywhere. Do you understand?
So self-realization liberates the formless to in the devotion of stopping even the renunciation, the choir. Renunciation cease, not enough required. Meditation is not required. What is required is abiding truth constantly at all time. So nirvana, anarthas, since they are non-existent in the first place, cease by its own accord, by abiding on the absolute. So there is no meditation, there is no renunciation. It is all the absolute. So I still word I to indicate cease meditation, cease inquire, and abide in the absolute. That's my ultimate faith.
All right. We can say that the state of self-realization is beyond meditation or renunciation and so forth, or we can say it's the state of perpetual meditation, where the inquiry has fulfilled itself. It is the state of supreme renunciation. The state of supreme renunciation is that in which nothing adheres and one adheres to nothing, in which there is no attachment to anything, from thought down to the objects. That supreme renunciation is found in self-realization. It is eternally renounced. Likewise, the meditation. When it's applied with effort, that is practice. When what is sought in effort is found to be innate, everlasting, and without an alternative, hence non-dual, it is called realization. So the same thing that at one time was called sannyasa, yoga, dhyana, bhakti, etc., is later called realization. We just have different terms for it to explain it in the course of practice. Again, the essence remains by itself. So when one meditates, it is never in vain. When one renounces, it is never in vain. It is all for that supreme good. By that effort, the mind dissolves. That which is supreme remains over. Then and then only one can say, oh, the supreme alone was existing the whole time. Nothing else was ever happening. Until that is the permanent, abiding, and doubtless experience, one should go on devoting himself, meditating, renouncing, and so forth.
That make it easier.
Okay.
Natural, it's easy.
So, in realization, it is natural to be as one really is. And that is just the absolute. In practice, it is natural to apply oneself fully.
What was this question? We were just speaking about humility, and a mosquito comes and sits on a fan. The reflex of the body makes it kill the mosquito. So I just killed the mosquito. but the mosquito could be somebody else. Wherein during their normal life, somebody says something, or somebody behaves in a way which could actually instigate you, or which could make you feel sad about something. So, how to behave in that during the spiritual practice, in that situation?
First, we should recognize that no one makes us be in a certain state. Our sadness or our happiness, our bondage or our liberation, is entirely something internal. Neither the mosquito nor anything else can alter that. The mosquito bites your arm. He receives the karma of a good slap, as described by you. Okay. This eliminates the mosquito, that particular mosquito, because there seem to be always more. It eliminates that particular mosquito as a factor in your experience. However, that in itself has provided you neither with bondage nor liberation. The slapping of the mosquito will not prevent your liberation, nor will it give you liberation. One cannot gain the bliss of Brahman simply by slapping mosquitoes. Nor does one necessarily gain the bliss of Brahman by refraining from killing any mosquito. It is something entirely internal. Okay, let's lift it off from mosquitoes to others. Someone says something to you, let's say, which is disagreeable, as an example. You do not have to suffer thereby. If what is said has something useful in it, let's say there's some degree of truthfulness to it, you may take it self-critically and use it. Let's say it's not. It's just something they said that's totally disagreeable,
It's
that's
not ethical.
not ethical.
Yeah.
The person is doing something not ethical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
something that is, it should not be said, or it's rather not required to be said at that point
okay.
during any discussion or anything.
All right. But you are not forced to discuss it with that person, are you?
If I am,
In other words, if the person says something unethical, you do not have to join in and also say something unethical.
If I'm closely related to the person who says something or behaves in a way or does something.
You can always show by example, or if they're open to, the person is open-minded to receive an alternative view, you may say just what you have said here. It is not right to speak in such a manner. There's a better way to go. Sometimes the other person may be too close-minded, depending on who the person is. You may just have to quit the conversation in silence, but not carry it with you. That person will bear the karma of his or her speech. What we do with our body, speech, and mind has karma. There's cause and effect relation. You cannot necessarily stop another person from saying things or using speech in a way that shouldn't be used. But you can take care of your own body, speech, and mind. You are helping them to the degree that you do not use your own body, speech, and mind in a way that's not right. And even if you cannot say something to them, at least you've set a good example. Sometime in the future, that person may think about it and say to himself, oh, well, he didn't do that.
That usually happens.
That-
The person realizes after some time.
And it all depends on the person. Some people, as the Maharshi says, are like cotton wool. They ignite right away. They pick up the lessons right away.
It happens to me too. Even I do something and then
And you see it later, okay, after some time. So maybe like cotton will go up at once, may ignite and I see it. It might be like a piece of wood, takes a little longer. As he points out, it could be like a piece of hard coal, takes a long time to heat it up. But still, we do what is true, good, and beautiful for the sake of the source of what is true, good, and beautiful. We do not do it because it is agreeable to us or because someone else is going to agree. Sometimes a person is very much embroiled or entangled in his own way of thinking, saying, and doing things. He may not, or she may not see even the better example, apparently. It will have its effect a long time later. But we should continue doing what is true, good, and beautiful just for the sake of what is true, good, and beautiful. We do what is right because it is right, not because someone else agrees with it or someone else will follow the right way. We do it for its own sake. But it does set an example. You don't have to suffer, though, when someone else does something wrong. So much so is this the case that if someone does something wrong and you are the intended target of that wrong, okay? In other words, something is being said to you and it's, let's say, not true about you or something, and it's aimed to, the intention is to degrade you, ruin your reputation with others, or to make you feel bad, etc. You can still be totally indifferent. Like a diamond, untouched, unscratched by whatever is touching it. You can still be indifferent, detached. You have read being detached from name and fame, etc. Everyone reads this in Scripture. It's practical application. And it's not just in those days that people said things sometimes that were not right. People are saying things that are not right even today. So the same thing applies. You turn your mind inward, you remain detached. When someone says something that's degrading of you, you have not been degraded. What has been degraded is the image in that person's mind about you. That person's way of thinking is degraded. You are not degraded. If those thoughts are put into words, those words are degraded. You are not degraded. If a third person believes what has been said about you, then that third person, by accepting such bad rumor, has then degraded that person's own mind. But you have not been degraded. Truth remains as it is. The facts stand as they are. And all this degrading and whatever, all this noise making, it's really just sound waves, and we interpret it with our ears. That goes on. Does not affect the truth, does not affect the facts. We should go on remaining indifferent pouring ourselves into what is true, good, and beautiful, living from that state. Let the rest of it just pass away, just like water flowing past. Can you see? Is there more for it?
No.
Okay.
I don't even see the mosquitoes.
Mosquito has gone away. Okay. Good, Steve.
I just wanted to, I had an experience after sharing with you this morning that it was kind of a deep clarity, and I just wanted to kind of move past it because it's very important to me. This idea that I have to somehow understand the truth on this mental level, and you've helped me with it tremendously, and that it was kind of funny that, I kind of look back at the experience. I had an experience of truth very young, and then the situation comes to where I'm asked by a beautiful lady to come and share at this beautiful temple, and I hear the same truth that I felt that was inside me all my life, without a doubt, that I felt that this is what I felt that was inside of me. And that for 3 years, pretty much getting close to 3 years, I've been coming here trying to agree with it. Now, the situation is that if I'm coming here for 3 years, here's the ego. I'm not coming here to agree with it because I know it's the truth. I'm not coming here to make sure that I agree with what you and all these beautiful people have been saying for countless years. And what I'm trying to say is that I'm almost where I feel I can move past this understanding, trying to understand on this mental level. Is it kind of making sense what I'm trying to say? I got to move past this trying to understand at this mental level. It doesn't, it's not that I'm coming here because I love the truth. And you tell me that it's inside me. And I know this. And that's how I'm agreeing with it, is that I'm coming here. I'm not coming here to sit here and try to agree with what you say. I come here because I love you, and I love what's inside of me. And I want to say that very clear, because it's not this ego that's coming here to make sure everybody's saying the truth. I apologize for that, and for somehow, maybe that mental level has got me to this point. I'm not even dissing that, but it's just something that's not deep enough, and that I need to move past it, and that's what I wanted to finish sharing, so I can let it go. I'm not agreeing with the truth.
All right. When we see there's a deeper way to approach,
Yeah.
just seeing it enables us to take that
I
deeper
see it,
approach.
I see it.
Om Sahana Bhavato Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
May He protect us both together. May He nourish us both together. May we both acquire strength together. Let our study be brilliant. May we not cavil at each other. Om, peace, peace, peace.
Om Brahmavida apnoti param tadesha bhukta satyam jnanamanantam brahma yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyoman so ashnude sarvan kamaan saha brahmana vipaschiteti.
The knower of Brahman attains the highest. He is a verse uttering that very fact. Brahman is truth, knowledge, and infinite. He who knows that Brahman as existing in the intellect, lodged in the supreme space in the heart, enjoys, as identified with the all-knowing Brahman, all desirable things simultaneously.
Yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasa saha anandam brahmano vidwan na bipedi kadachaneti.
One is not subjected to fear at any time if one knows the bliss that is Brahman, failing to reach which Brahman, as conditioned by the mind, words, along with the mind, turn back.
Asannena sabhavati asmad brahmeti veda chet asti brahmeti chet veda sandamenam tato viduriti.
If anyone knows Brahman as non-existing, he himself becomes non-existent. If anyone knows that Brahman does exist, then they consider him as existing by virtue of that knowledge. Of that preceding blissful one, this one is the embodied self. Hence, hereafter follow these questions. After departing from here, does any ignorant man go to the other world, or does he not? Alternatively, does any man of knowledge, after departing from here, reach the other world, or does he not? He, the self, wished, let me be many, let me be born. He undertook a deliberation. Having deliberated, he created all this that exists. That Brahman, having created that, entered into that very thing. And having entered there, it became the formed and the formless, the defined and the undefined, the sustaining and the non-sustaining, the sentient and the insentient, the true and the untrue. Truth became all this that there is. They call that Brahman truth. Pertaining to this, there occurs this verse.
Asadva idamagra asit tado vai satajayata tadatmanakam syamakuruta tasmat sukrutamuchyata iti.
In the beginning, all this was but the unmanifested Brahman. From that emerged the manifested. That Brahman created itself by itself. Therefore, it is called the self-creator. That which is known as the self-creator is verily the source of joy, for one becomes happy by coming into contact with that source of joy. Who indeed will inhale, and who will exhale? If this bliss be not there in the supreme space within the heart, this one indeed enlivens people. For whenever an aspirant gets fearlessly established in this unperceivable, bodiless, inexpressible, and unsupporting Brahman, he reaches the state of fearlessness. For whenever the aspirant creates the slightest difference in it, he is smitten with fear. Nevertheless, that very Brahman is a terror to the so-called learned man who lacks the unitive outlook.
Pishasmadva patap pavate Pishode disutyaha Bishasmad agnischendrascha Mrityurdhavati panchama iti Saishanandasya mimakam sa bhavati Yuvatsyatyabhuyuvatyayakah Ashishto dradishto balishtaha Tasyevam prithvi sarva vittasya purna syat Sa eko manusha anantaha Te ye shatam manusha anantaha Sa eko manushya gandharvanam Srotriyasya chaka mahatasya Te ye shadam manushya gandharvanam Sa eko deva gandharvanam Srotriyasya chaka mahatasya Te ye shadam deva gandharvanam Sa eka pitrinam chiralokanam Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya Te ye shatam pitrinam chiralokanam Sa eka ajanajanam devanam Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya Te ye shatam ajanajanam devanam Sa eka karma devanam Ye karmana devana piyanti Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya Te ye shatam karma devanam Sa eko devanam Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya Te ye shatam devanam Sa eka indrasya Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya Te ye shatam indrasya Sa eko brahaspateranandaha Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya Te ye shatam brahaspateranandaha Sa ekaha prajapateranandaha Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya Te ye shatam prajapateranandaha Sa eko brahmana anandaha Shrotriyasya chaka mahatasya
Out of his fear the wind blows, out of fear the sun rises. Out of his fear runs fire, as also Indra and death, the fifth. This then is the evaluation of that bliss. Suppose there is a young man in the prime of life, good, learned, most expeditious, most strongly built, and most energetic. Suppose there lies this earth for him filled with wealth. This will be one unit of human joy. If this human joy is multiplied 100 times, it is one joy of the man Gandharvas, and so also of a follower of the Vedas, unaffected by desires. If this joy of the man Gandharvas be multiplied 100 times, it is one joy of the divine Gandharvas, and so also of a follower of the Vedas unaffected by desire. If the joy of the divine Gandharvas be increased 100-fold, it is one joy of the mains whose world is everlasting, and so of a follower of the Vedas untouched by desire. If the joy of the mains that dwell in the everlasting world be increased 100-fold, it is one joy of those that are born as gods in heaven, and also of a follower of the Vedas, untouched by desire. If the joy of those that are born as gods in heaven be multiplied 100-fold, it is one joy of the gods called the Karma Devas, who reach the gods through Vedic rites, and so of the followers of the Vedas, unaffected by desire. If the joys of the gods called the Karma Devas be multiplied 100-fold, it is one joy of the gods, and so of a follower of the Vedas, untarnished by desire. If the joy of the gods be increased 100 times, it is one joy of Indra, and so of a follower of the Vedas, untouched by desire. If the joy of Indra be multiplied 100-fold, it is one joy of Brihaspati, and so of a follower of the Vedas, unaffected by desire. If the joy of Brihaspati be increased 100 times, it is one joy of Virat, and so of the follower of the Vedas, untarnished by desire. If the joy of Virat be multiplied 100 times, it is one joy of Hiranyagarbha, and so is it of the follower of the Vedas, unsullied by desire.
Yato vacho nivartante apraapya manasa saha anandam brahmano vidwan na bipedik kutascha neti.
The enlightened man is not afraid of anything after realizing that bliss of Brahman, failing to reach which words turn back along with the mind. Him indeed this remorse does not afflict. Why did I not perform good deeds? Why did I perform bad deeds? He who is thus enlightened strengthens the self with which these two are identical, for it is he indeed who knows thus that can strengthen the self which these two really are. This is the secret teaching.
Bragurvai varunihi varunam pitaramupasasara adhiki bhagavo brahmeti tasmat edat provacha annam pranam chakshuschotram manokvachamiti takam hovacha yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti pisham vishanti tad vidyasasva tad brahmeti satapo tapyata satapastatva.
Bhargu, the well-known son of Varuna, approached his father Varuna with the formal request, "O revered sir, teach me Brahman." To him, he, Varuna, said this: "Food, vital force, eye, ear, mind, speech, these are the aids to knowledge of Brahman." To him, he, Varuna, said, "Crave to know that from which all these beings take birth, that by which they live after being born, that towards which they move and into which they merge, that is Brahman." He practiced concentration, he having practiced concentration.
Annam Brahmeti Vyajanat Annatyeva Kalvibani Bhutani Jayante Annena Jatani Jivanti Annam Prayantapi Samvishanti Tadvijjaya Punareva Varunam Pitaramupasasara Adhiki Bhagavo Brahmeti Takam Hovacha Tapasa Brahma Vijijñāsasva Tapo Brahmeti Satapo Tapyata Satapastatva.
He realized food, that is Virat, the cosmic person, the gross cosmic person, as Brahman. For it is verily from food that all these things take birth. On food they subsist after being born, and they move towards and merge into food. Having realized that, he again approached his father, Varuna, with a formal request. O revered sir, teach me Brahman. To him he, Varuna, said, crave to know Brahman through concentration. Concentration is Brahman. He practiced concentration. He, having practiced concentration,
Prano Brahmeti Vyajanat Pranatyeva Kalvibani Bhutani Jayante Pranena Jatani Jivanti Pranam Prayantapi Samvishanti Tadvijjaya Punareva Varunam Pitaramupasasara Adhihi Bhagavo Brahmeti Takam Hovacha Tapasa Brahma Vijijñāsasva Tapo Brahmeti Satapo Tapyata Satapastatva.
he knew the vital force as Brahman, for from the vital force indeed springs all these beings. Having come into being, they live through the vital force. They move towards and enter into the vital force. Having known thus, he again approached his father, Varuna, with a formal request. O revered sir, teach me Brahman. To him he, Varuna, said, crave to know Brahman through concentration. Concentration is Brahman. He practiced concentration. Having practiced concentration,
Mano Brahmeti Vyajanat Manaso Kyeva Kalvibani Bhutani Jayante Manasa Jatani Jivanti Manaha Prayantapi Samvishanti Tadvijjaya Punareva Varunam Pitaramupasasara Adhihi Bhagavo Brahmeti Takam Hovacha Tapasa Brahma Vijijñāsasva Tapo Brahmeti Satapo Tapyata Satapastatva.
he knew knowledge is Brahman, for from knowledge indeed springs all these beings. Having been born, they are sustained by knowledge. They move towards and merge in knowledge. Having known that, he approached his father, Varuna, again with the formal request, O revered sir, teach me Brahman. To him he, Varuna, said, crave to know Brahman through concentration. Concentration is Brahman. He practiced concentration, he having practiced concentration.
Vijnanam Brahmeti Vyajanat Vijnanatyeva Kalvibani Bhutani Jayante Vijnanena Jatani Jivanti Vijnanam Prayantapi Samvishanti Tadvijñāya Punareva Varunam Pitaramupasasara Adhihi Bhagavo Brahmeti Takam Hovacha Tapasa Brahma Vijijñāsasva Tapo Brahmeti Satapo Tapyata Satapastatva.
He knew bliss is Brahman, for from bliss indeed all these beings originate. Having been born, they are sustained by bliss. They move towards and merge in bliss.
Shut